than our local cable subscribers.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. The first thing on our agenda is the approval of prior meeting minutes. Do you have any notes?
I do actually.
Okay, here we go.
At our last meeting, we spoke about lighting on Cottage Street, not lightning on Cottage Street.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Clerical error.
Just a typo.
But with that amendment, I would absolutely move to approve minutes.
I have a question before the motion continues further. I don't have a computer. Can somebody edit that?
Depends on how you sent it to us.
We'll edit it before I forward it on to Mary Ann. Yeah. Oh, no, wait, that's the agenda. I guess I can go back. I can edit
it, PDF.
Okay. Said lightning.
Yeah. Do you have Acrobat?
Correct.
Do you need a paid version for that?
Yeah. But I think the city must pay for it too now.
I will find out if that is true. Is that but again, with that was my only note. So move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve the amended meeting minutes. Do we have a second? Oh, I'm the second. Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Great. So our second thing is mayoral communications. I do not believe we have anything from the mayor today. So our third is public speak. So Alex, would you like to speak?
Great. Thanks for this opportunity for the meeting. So my name is Alex Barron, and I'm an Easthampton resident, and I'm here to express concern and willingness to engage about the proposed e-bike ordinance. As someone who's a user of the rail trail, both as a pedestrian, on a regular bicycle, and on a Class 1 electric cargo bike. One of the reasons we bought a house in Easthampton was actually we were planning to use the rail trail for the commute to Northampton. And when I'm commuting this way, I like the fact that I am reducing traffic on Route 10, and I'm reducing air and climate pollution, saving on fuel, and getting some exercise and fresh air. I do this more often because I have an e-bike. I have my toddler along as a passenger quite frequently, and the e-bike really helps make that commute more sustainable than once in a while kind of thing. So I saw the proposed language that was introduced to City Council, and I'm delighted to hear that the committee intends to modify the proposed ordinance. 10 years of using the bike path, 5 with an e-bike, has definitely shown me that regular e-bikes can coexist with other trail users. And in the interest of the language changing, I just had 3 general points I wanted to make. So the first is that Easthampton is not an island, and we already have our own budget challenges. The Ride Safe Act was introduced yesterday by the governor, and it's going to, if it's enacted, is going to significantly rework the regulatory structure for e-bikes and e-motorcycles, in line with a thoughtful report prepared by a state special commission on mobility. I'd be happy to share that report with you if you haven't seen it already, as well as the legislation. Many of the challenges around this space are best solved by a uniform state policy that would apply to Northampton and Easthampton and Southampton, and with state resources. So I hope we urge the legislature to move some version of this bill forward this session to sort of get these measures in place, and to be attentive as you're sort of drafting the ordinance to the many things that are likely to change, possibly as soon as the end of this session. The second is that I recognize the very valid concern that many people have about sort of encounters with high-speed things on the bike trail. It's my contention that what many people think are e-bikes are actually e-motorcycles. It's totally understandable confusion because it can be hard to tell the difference, especially if something is zooming past you. But if it's going faster than 20 miles an hour without someone pedaling, my understanding is that legally that is an electric motorcycle. And as such, restricting responsible e-bike use is not going to solve the problem of folks riding e-motorcycles in places where they shouldn't be and too fast for safety. That really seems like a problem that needs to be solved by sort of a combination of outreach and enforcement. Although there's obviously things that the state can do to help with that. And then the third point is that even some large cities like Los Angeles and Long Beach and San Diego and Seattle have tried bike licensing programs and abandoned them due to a mix of the workload and the cost. The Ride Safe Act that was just introduced contemplates the development of point of sale labels that would allow, they would apply statewide and avoid putting that burden on local government, but allow people to identify what is a class 1 or class 2 or tier 1, tier 0 or tier 2 bicycle. And so that seems like the best approach for that kind of measure. I think there's a bunch of sensible things that Easthampton can do to sort of limit e-motorcycle speeding in town on the bike path and elsewhere. And I look forward to reading what the committee prepares and engaging on those details. So.
Thank you so much. Do we have anyone online who would like to do? Okay, I see Sean. So just state your name and where you live.
Hello, my name is Sean Abbott. I live on Summer Street.
Yep.
And excuse me?
Sean.
Could you spell your last name for me real quick?
ABBOTT.
Sorry.
It works. I actually wanted to come and encourage the committee to just table this ordinance. I think that this ordinance is really misplaced at best, and I think that it's honestly kind of wasting time that could be better spent on things that would actually make folks a lot safer. I get that there are a lot of people out there who feel like e-bikes or e-motos are somehow dangerous, and I don't think that the evidence for that is there. And I would really like to, live in a evidence-based community. So, there's a few things around e-bikes versus like something that's actually dangerous, like cars, that I think it's worth keeping in mind. In the most recent stats I could find for 2023, there were 30,000 injuries associated with micromobility devices in the United States as a whole. During that same time frame, there were almost 2.5 million injuries associated with cars. So that's a big difference. And even in Easthampton, I know we've had at least 2 pedestrians killed by cars in the last couple of years, and we don't even track how many people have been disabled. We don't even track how many people have had their lives ruined when they're struck by a car or motor vehicle. And we have a long list of things that we can do to make Easthampton a lot safer when it comes to interactions with cars. Another thing that I think that this ordinance really misses the boat on as it was designed is it puts micromobility users on the roads with those very same cars that are actually the thing that is hurting people of Easthampton. They're called vulnerable road users. They're being put out there with cars, and cars are the things that kill vulnerable road users. That seems like pretty counterproductive to me, to be honest. Like, if we're going to take people that aren't really threatening anyone, and we're going to put them out there onto the roads where they are threatened by cars, then a lot more people are going to get hurt in that way. And we're also, to the earlier gentleman's point, we're going to reduce the number of people who are actually using these vehicles, the micromobility devices, and that is going to create more traffic, which is a thing everybody hates, which is also going to put people in contention with more cars, which are the things that cause all the injuries. Another fun fact about this is the number 1 killer of people in the United States, age 15 to 29, is cars. So there, it's just like, I don't know why right now people are worrying about e-bikes, other than this has become sort of a thing that seems to be kind of cool to worry about. But like, the data isn't there to support this as a threat to the people of Easthampton. It really isn't. And if somebody has data and they want to present that data, and maybe I'm missing something, then by all means. But like, folks, claiming that they got buzzed by an e-bike and not actually being hit does not rise to the level of needing an ordinance, in my opinion.
Thank you, Sean.
Go ahead. I just wanted to, so the other thing that I think is I do think that the timing of this ordinance recommendation from the Police Chiefs Association is a little bit strange. I'm given to understand that the police chiefs were involved with MassDOT's micromobility study and the recommendations that that study put forward. And then this letter came out sort of immediately after those recommendations were put forward, and we're not recommending this sort of level of enforcement. I think that one other thing that we should consider is that the vehicle worldwide and, potentially in the United States, if we give it room, that has been displacing the most fossil fuels is the electric micromobility devices. They displace more fossil fuels than any other thing on the road, including electric cars, including electric vehicles. They're just the most efficient way to travel. And I think we should be looking for opportunities to make that more possible for people rather than less possible. I do have a few short recommendations for things that we could be doing that would be actually help create more safety in Easthampton. One thing we could do is actually enforce Massachusetts lift law on trucks. There's at least 3 violators on my street alone, and one doesn't have to spend very long on a public street in order to see people going by that have well over 2-inch lifts. It would be really great if we could actually issue citations to the inspection shops that are passing those vehicles. Those vehicles are ones that when they hit somebody, that all the force, all that, 100,000 joules or whatever it is, goes directly in people's heads. So that goes super well. I think we could do things like identifying residential streets that are used by drivers as cut-throughs who are attempting to avoid traffic controls, like mine, where people hit my road and they put the hammer down and they hit about 40 or 50 miles an hour within 200 meters. We could do something about those streets. We could install modal filters in the middle of those streets so that folks couldn't do that, which would vastly introduce our safety. I've got kids that play in my street. I've got disabled people that walk through my street. And I've got a bunch of cars that use it as a cut through because we're near the roundabout. And I would love to see us enforce daylighting at the corners. It's been really great that DPW and the planners have put some daylighting paint on the corners, but people park in that daylighting all the time. Those corners are, the reason the daylighting is getting put there is because those corners are dangerous. And if we're going to do something that causes enforcement, why don't we enforce the daylighting? So those are just a few ideas, and I hope you all will decide to table this resolution or this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us all that information. If you want to send it to us in an email so we can have your recommendations, that would probably be good to have.
Yep, I can do that. Thank you.
All right, we have one more person, Alexis.
Hello, my name is Alexis Hosea Abbott, and I sent in a comment letter. I just wanted to make sure you received it. I also work at Mass Bike, and we were involved in the micromobility committee. So I just recommend that Easthampton follows the legislative body instead of making up our own rules. And how the draft ordinance was written completely ignores Valley Bike, which are all e-bikes. And I think you need to work with Valley Bike if you intend on going forward in that direction.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. So we will now move on to the next part of the agenda, which is the report from our wonderful Chief Alexander. Is that true? I got out of my agenda for a second. It is. Great. Okay, Chief Alexander, it's your turn.
So since our last meeting, just touching on it briefly, our big topic we discussed was ice in town. Luckily, knock on wood, we have had no incidents that release reported to us regarding that. And in the last 3 months, the main thing on my mind and my whole department's mind every day is the budget and the crisis that we're facing. Just for some quick background of what we've talked about. So just before I even start, so the national average for police officers is 2.4 per 1,000 residents. So a town our size, our city, we should have 41 officers, give or take. Right now, my budget proposal, the amount I had to slash out, we had no choice, but the minimum we have to lay off is 2 police officers. So that's 2 out of 30. So we'll be down to 28, which that'll put us at 68% of the national average. When we already run dangerously low, we run, our minimum manning is 3 officers day shift, overnight shift, 4 officers on the evening, and the overnight on the weekends currently. With these layoffs, we have no choice but to run a 3 officer minimum. It's kind of twofold. One, because we're losing the officers, which in that we have to forego some specialized positions like our traffic car. So right now we have a dedicated traffic car. Anybody with any issues, say Summer Street, the gentleman that spoke online, if he had any traffic issues, he could call Scott Gove, our traffic officer, and that day Scott would be out there running radar, slowing cars down, anything, coming to a resolution with the residents that are having the issue. So unfortunately that will have to go away. So along with losing those 2 officers, in lieu of losing a third, I opted to slash our overtime budget because we wouldn't be able to run with 27. Really, the more you lose, the more it would cost in overtime because we can't run with less than 3. And already my unions are drafting letters about the dangers of running with 3 officers at a time for a city our size. The reason we have to do that is because of the big slash to the overtime. And now with that, it's not only going to change the dynamics of each individual shift where you'll only have 3 officers working. So if 2 officers are out at, say, a disturbance and you're in a car accident, you got 1 officer coming. And then we'll ask state police to come give us a hand, but it could take time before we get there. That's just for regular calls. Where I feel the residents are going to feel it the most isn't in the day-to-day, because I can see how a member of the public would say, well, what's the difference? You have 3, you got 4. When you look at, I like to look at things in percentages. And when we're taking 25% of our shift away, you're losing out on 25% of your force to be able to respond. And on top of that, because of the big cut in overtime, we just won't have the ability to do any community events, which is my bread and butter. I grew up here. I love giving back to the community. That's until I got this job. Was big into community events. Started a bunch of different things, but what that's going to look like is things like the Rag Shack Parade. We can't have a Rag Shack Parade. With 3 officers working, you can't block all the streets and keep however many thousands of people show up, depending on how warm the night is. You can't just. We use 3 officers. We always have kids get separated, and they're all in masks. Parents are in masks. Just our crew that sets up a little station to reunify lost kids that night. That would be our whole shift for the whole coverage for the city. And then just Winterfest, Jubilation, bike and walk to school, stuff like that. We like to. What we would do typically is that's right at 7 a.m, a couple times a year. We escort the kids to school on various routes. I still can do it. My deputy chief can still do it. But we used to augment it with the 3 or 4 officers that'd be working along with members of our detective bureau. Another unfortunate thing with the budget cuts is because our shifts will be so short, our day shift will be staffed by 2 or 3 officers, and we need a minimum of 3. And on a regular day shift, you're welcome to read through our logs and see the amount of work that our officers do. So our detectives are going to have to augment shift work. So that means investigations, which anybody that's dealt with our detective bureau knows, 1, how professional they are, but 2, how prompt and attentive they are to every situation. Easthampton, we aren't like a New York City where we have like a homicide unit and a SVU unit. We have our detectives that handle everything from serious incidents to the everyday packages got stolen off your porch. When you have 3 police officers, they can't be investigating those. So you rely on the detectives to do the follow-up, the looking at cameras and trying to track down where the package went, if it got pawned, so on. Now, if our patrol, they have to cover patrol, things like that, really quality of life, in my opinion. While some people say, oh, it's a $20 Amazon package. Well, I've had things stolen. I've had my car broken into. Like, it's an invasion and people want results. And unfortunately, it's the two officers that we're going to lose is because of that whole trickle down effect. I have a feeling that many residents in town are going to be disappointed in the changes that have to be made just because we're handcuffed because of the budget. Obviously, we're going to strive to do our absolute best like we always do because we're the best police department in Massachusetts and maybe the country, but we can only do so much with what we have. So over the last 3 months since our last meeting, that has been every single day crunching number. I never thought I'd be like an accountant. I've looked at numbers. I've gone home with headaches and lost sleep over trying to put together this to save jobs and still provide the high quality policing that Easthampton deserves. And if the override doesn't pass, then unfortunately, this is the best we have to offer.
So do you have 31 officers, including the detectives, or 31 patrol?
30 total, including me,
30
my deputy,
including
30 total.
right now.
30 sworn police officers, and then we have one, our mental health and wellness clinician, yes, which,
Is that on the chopping block, or is it grant funded right now?
so it's not grant funded. It's currently in my budget, and it's currently looking at being cut from my budget. That's about the best I can offer. I know Emma is an incredible employee. Would be an absolute shame to the whole city. She helps schools, fire, DPW, really everybody in the city in many different ways, along with a co-responder. So we have her come on calls with us when somebody's in a mental health crisis. It's nice having a professional there that has the schooling and that's her life to take over the call with us there to keep her safe and the patient, but a professional to give them different avenues. It's really a question for the mayor because I honestly, I don't know what her status is going to be.
And do you have, how many patrol officers do you have?
So technically 20. So here's the way it breaks down is there's when you are a ranking officer, so if you're a supervisor, a sergeant, a lieutenant, we have two, one in charge of the detectives, one in charge of the whole patrol, and then a deputy chief and a chief. Sergeants are in charge of individual shifts, and then the rest are into the patrol force. So there's 20 badge numbers. If that answers your
So
question.
how many sergeants again?
6 sergeants.
So that's the different shifts. So we learned about this with the fire department. So each sergeant has its own 3 officers that they always work in, or is it different than the fire?
No, we're not in groups like them because based on our rotation of schedule. Because another way that we have done for years, and which I changed a little bit when I took over, was to augment extra coverage. It's hard to explain without a flow chart in front of me, but we have some officers that'll work like 2 3 to 11 and then 2 midnight shifts. So they're not on a straight 4, which I don't know how they do it with their sleep schedule and everything, but they enjoy it. And it helps on those shifts instead of them being all 3 to 11, that gives the extra on the 11 to 7 and the way it just flows through the week. So each sergeant, there's a training sergeant and then 5 patrol sergeants. So that's another change that I didn't mention, so with the training sergeant position, it was created when police reform came because it is by far a full-time job, staying up on everybody's training, coordinating the training, logging the training, keeping in contact with the post commission, recertifying officers every year, which is a process in and of itself. So that training sergeant is a full-time job handling all that. With these cuts, the training sergeant is going to be back to a shift. So we'll be working twofold, have to do all that and be the supervisor of the day shift because we'll have to, there's a full, there used to be, well, there still is until hopefully it keeps going once our residents pass the override. But so one sergeant works 4 days on, another sergeant covers 2 3 to 11s, and then the 2 days when that sergeant has his 2 days off, like his weekend. And so it just keeps rotating over like that. And then the training sergeant is in addition. We're now going to have to pull a sergeant off that shift to stack another shift because we can't fill overtime and we need at least 3 people working. And there's rules with how many people can be off. We can't have more than 2 people off on a shift. So that training sergeant role is now 2 jobs in one.
So they'll be doing some of the patrol and some of the training.
They'll be doing in charge of all the training still, and then everything for supervising the day shift, including being the third or fourth officer, backing them up on calls, approving reports, submitting things to core, everything that a supervisor does.
So is the supervisor the third officer? I'm sorry, I have so many questions.
That's good.
Or is the supervisor the fourth and then there's 3?
So the patrol supervisor counts as an officer.
Okay.
So there's going to be
like 1 and 2 basically.
Yes. Well, in a perfect world, like there's scheduled, like tonight, there's 4 officers working. That's typically our minimum staffing on a 3 to 11. Most nights right now we have 5 scheduled, but by eliminating the traffic car, moving them to that, the goal is to schedule 5 or 6 officers. So that way, if 2 people are on their vacation time and we're down to 3, we don't have the money to fill overtime, so we won't have to because we're going to run short with 3. But if it so happens that it's the sergeant and 2 officers, that sergeant is the third officer and responding to calls.
All right, go ahead, Nathan.
I think you kind of answered this. So the shifts are about 8 hours long typically. They're 8-hour shifts.
8 hours and 15 minutes.
They're not the 12. I believe the fire department was saying that they have some that are like 12-hour shifts sometimes. So
I know they have 24.
Oh, they have 24.
Yeah,
shifts.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We looked at trying to come up with different staffing, and nobody would have liked it. And if I could make it work, I still would have tried it. We just don't have enough manpower. If we were even had half of the extra amount of officers to bring us up to the national average, a lot of places, especially in the South, run a rotating schedule where they work 12-hour shifts, and it's more structured. You're on a 12-hour shift, so there's 2 different 12-hour shifts. One week you get only 2 days off. The others you get 5 days off. So you'd work 1 week.
So you get the same amount of hours.
1 week you work 60, the next you work 24. So in a pay period,
yeah, adds up to the same.
it's actually 8 hours more per pay period. So contractually, we couldn't make it work.
Now I know this is more about logistics, but obviously, like, things happen. You're out on a call. Your shift ends at what? Did you say 3 is sometimes a shift?
So 6:45 a.m. to 3. There's a 15-minute briefing window where both shifts meet, pass things on.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, there has to be an overlap.
Yep, it's a 15-minute overlap. So when I say a 7 to 3, so 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., but it's actually 6:45 to 3, 2:45 to 11 p.m., 10:45 to 7 a.m.
And if you're in the middle of a call and it happens at that time, obviously your time's going to go over because you're out handling something or before. Okay. I was just getting an idea. I didn't know, like the fire department, they have really long shifts. I just wanted that clarification because for police, especially fire too, but like working too many hours, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get sloppy. You're going to get irritated, all of that stuff. So I just went back to that.
Follow up to that question. So let's say somebody does end up needing to stay 30 minutes late because they're in the middle of something. Does then that automatically become overtime that we're paying? Or is there a way to do comp time or something like that?
Yeah, so it has to be, right, because of the Fair Labor Standards Act, it has to be paid because you're working over your 8 hours. The officers have the option, luckily for us, and I don't know if it's because they know we're in dire straits and we're trying to save every penny already. A lot of the officers will take it as comp time because even if it's 30 minutes, they've got to finish up a report. They're on a car accident on the mountain. That 30 minutes is 45, right? Because it's time and a half. Do that 4 times over a course of maybe 6 months, and now you get a day off. So they like it. And then now with going to such a big cut, they'll only be able to get certain days off. If another person's off, they won't be able to because we can't fill it with overtime because we're at such a minimum. But they can just find a day where they can now get a day off. So a lot of our officers do elect for the comp time.
And are they like nurses where whatever happens on your shift, you have to stay until you've finished filling out all the paperwork on your shift?
So it all depends. Certain calls, certain things can wait. It depends on if you're, if you're going off shift, it's 3:05, you just had a minor motor vehicle accident. There's nothing that mandates that report be done. If it's an accident with serious injury or a fatality, you're not going home for a long, you're probably staying for at least an extra 8 hours, doing a lot of work involved in all the paperwork. Same goes for like incident reports. If somebody had somebody take, they caught on their account that they got hacked for a few dollars. Well, they have the resident do what they got to do, notify the bank, have a stop on their account, deal with all that. We don't pay overtime because that can be finished the next time they come in.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a call by call thing, and it happens a lot more than you think because for whatever reason that last hour before you go home is always the busiest, and it's always up to the shift supervisor. That's one of the duties again of a supervisor to decide.
Deciding whether they can do it the next day. Do we have any more questions about the budget?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
I anticipate a future meeting that I will be able to ask those questions.
It's been such a roller coaster, and I think I submitted my final draft if the override doesn't go through, but I don't know. But everything I explained is a definite, unless if a resident wins Powerball tonight and wants to donate a little bit, then we can keep all our.
We'll name a street after
I do have one question that has come up a lot that I've heard people questioning, and I would like, for the record, for you to explain this to us and the people. That was. Can you just explain that to everybody?
Sure.
So.
I don't like them. I'm not a fan.
Oh God.
All right, I'm not a fan. So when we got them, one was purchased as part of a grant program, and another was purchased through drug forfeiture money. I don't have the exact dollar amount that it cost. I don't think any taxpayer dollars, but I don't want to say that on the record without getting those numbers, because the seized drug money, we have an account. It can only be used for certain things. We can't use it to fund our budget and keep our officers.
So you cannot use drug money.
No. You can use it for certain trainings. You can use it for equipment, but absolutely not. No personnel services. So one on a grant, one on drug forfeiture. There was some sort of deal worked out. Because this was before I was the chief and I had nothing to do with cars. To my knowledge, it was either fully funded on the grant and drug forfeiture, or maybe half paid on grant, half out of the budget, and then forfeiture. But one's definitely was free, and one was at the most half of whatever the cost was. If you can talk the mayor into purchasing me 2 police cruisers, marked lettered police cruisers, I will personally go out of my own pocket, buy the for sale signs and put them on the front lawn of the station tomorrow. All right? Because it is not worth the aggravation. I understand everybody has an opinion, and everybody likes them or hates them for their specific reasons. I just personally am not a fan. I don't think they're comfortable. I would never, ever, even if we got here, buy one, get 9 free, unless the mayor makes me, no, thank you. And if I could get 2 cruisers, you can have them. I would get rid of them tomorrow.
Do you know what year they are?
No, I want to say 23 or 24.
Is it because they're electric, or is it just
My personal opinion?
Is it? Yeah.
I'm a little bit bigger of a guy, and it's a little sedan. It's not comfy, and I don't wear much. I wear my sidearm. Sometimes I have handcuffs already on.
You don't have the full.
It's not comfortable for me. It's not a comfortable ride, I don't think.
So it's the style. It's not the electric car.
No, because all our cars, ever since we signed on to being a green community, all our cars are at a minimum hybrid.
Even the cruisers? hybrid?
They're all hybrid.
Oh.
Every new one since I believe it was 21, maybe when we went signed on to that.
So you don't like the style.
No. And so the Tesla's the white one is a patrol car. It is like being in it's a cruiser. It's got the laptop. It's got all the same lights, sirens. You can run license plates. You can run radar. And the former chief, his whole idea was for it to basically just be a traffic car. Currently, Officer Gove, or for now traffic officer, does drive it most days. Not every day, but most days. The other is an admin car, which our detective lieutenant is assigned it.
Detective lieutenant. So lieutenant is in charge of the detectives.
Correct. Yeah. So he's the lieutenant in charge of the detective bureau. Detectives, they have take-home cars because they respond directly to scenes, and they have all of their gear in there. A lot of expensive, cameras and you name it. It's basically their mobile office, but they're to hand me down. They're not the best cars.
Are detectives always on call per se?
So yes, at a minimum, one detective is always on call. So we have on our Google Calendar, I could pull it up right now and tell you who's on call. The way currently they're doing, I don't know what's going to change if the budget happens, what happens. But currently, each detective, it's on a rotating schedule that they have a week-long call-in schedule. So if it's something like a business gets broken into overnight, smashed out window, somebody goes in, takes some money, runs away, one detective will go in. They'll process the scene. If it's, I'll say minor, it's a very big inconvenience, but if it's a broken window and a couple $100, like that, we wouldn't get state police involved. We would do our own processing. They have cameras, they can collect fingerprints, they're trained in all that. And then they'd have patrol officers assist. And there's a lot that up until now, we've been getting to go to training so they can, even at a patrol level, can learn, because sometimes who knows how long you're going to wait, or if detectives, there's been plenty of times where if they're already tied up on something and they can't get others to come in. If it's something more major,
Violent crime.
at least two will come in. So say fatal motor vehicle crash. The on-call detective will go in, the detective lieutenant will go in, and then he'll make the decision on whether or not to bring a third in. Every case is different. You might have to interview witnesses in different hospitals, and maybe somebody's under arrest, or it may be just something clear cut. So one or the lieutenant can handle.
And the detectives are salaried, right? Like they don't do overtime, or do they?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Will they still get overtime?
Yep. So they're in the patrol union.
Okay.
So currently, the way we operate currently, so if two people are off, like right now, Officer Lukasik, she was involved, she was hit head on by the person on Holyoke Street.
Oh, yeah, that was right in front of my house.
Yeah, so she's still out injured. She's waiting on a surgery. Doesn't help us at all right now because we're already low and potentially losing people. But if she's out and another officer takes the night off, so only two are scheduled. And right now we're still running with a 4 minimum on the 3 to 11. Let's say 3. We'd fill it with overtime, and contractually, because they all fall under the same umbrella, it goes out. People on their day off get first option by seniority and where they're at, how many shifts they've worked. It's all a policy through contract. But yes, they can work overtime. And then if they're called in from off duty, it's on overtime hours. Sometimes they take comp time, so they can, if they work the day shift, they get called an hour after they leave, and then they're in for another 8 hours. Sometimes they just take it as time and then take the next day off so they can sleep in and not have to be back at work if the investigation doesn't require them in.
So do they come to work every day for the weeks that they're on?
Yep. Oh yeah, no. So that's in addition to their regular schedule.
Oh, so they're in work every single day.
Oh yeah, yes. So we're also switching that. So I'll go by what we're currently doing. So right now they are on a 5 on 2 off schedule. So they work Monday through Friday. 2 are on the day shift, 2 are on the evening shift. The lieutenant, he mostly works days, sometimes works evenings if there's events or whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to have to force some of them to switch their hours to be a rotating 4 on and 2 off. So we'll have coverage on the weekends. So if I only have 2 officers on a day shift, instead of filling overtime, that day shift detective now puts the uniform on and he doesn't do any detecting. So, but yes, they work the same hours as under the contract, the 80 hours pay period.
Do you have any other questions?
Not about that. Also not about the budget.
Yeah, any other questions?
About,
Alex,
I have questions, but not about the budget.
we'll move on to those questions.
God, and it just and it slipped out of my head as soon as we moved on.
It'll be back.
Everything moved on. Oh, we had a couple folks in public speak about the EMOTO, Ride Safe Act. Some people want to table us. Some people want us to scrutinize it and stuff. I had another city councilor coming here, Councilor Jamrock McQuaid, saying that he had concerns about 2 of the classifications on there. How do you feel about the ordinance if you've read it?
I'm not a city. I don't want to do your job. But what I will say is I would approach it cautiously for one, but the way we work is we work with the tools or the laws that were presented. So currently, as that's in this advisory, this is from over a year ago. It came out in July of 2025. E-bikes are constantly getting bigger and bigger. And the biggest thing that we see and the biggest complaint is the juveniles on them and the bikes that they're getting that go very fast for their ages. So under the state law, if they're going over 20 miles an hour, if it's over a set amount of watts, I think it's 750, which is on them, it's a motorized bike. Now, when I was 16 or 17, I got my motorcycle license and I rode a motorcycle for a while. Like, it's scary to be on a road with the motoring public. The problem that we see most, especially in town, is from juveniles that maybe they just don't know the rules of the road. But just the other day, my wife was pulling out of Dunkin' Donuts and she's edging for, I think it was a Saturday, so it was very busy, traffic in the morning. She looks both ways, looking, edging forward. And before you know it, a kid is going against traffic on the sidewalk, swerves out in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when she's trying to make a right, luckily she looked back to the right, even though she's making a right, because if she nosed forward, and she said that kid had to be going well over 20 anyway. And it's just,
And not pedaling.
No.
It's not a motor.
If you're on and leaving all the classes out of it, I think I own 2. They are the pedal assist, you pedal and they help bigger guys like me be able to go a little farther, and they're very convenient and they're great.
Yeah.
My kids, granted, they're only 11 and 9, but my 11-year-old always wants to ride it, and I'll only let her ride it if it's a dead end street, and I'll let her take it around, and it is what it is. But we have seen numerous gruesome injuries, and to the best of my knowledge, they've all been kids under 16 going way too fast, bones sticking out of their arm, bones sticking out of their leg. And that's what we're trying to prevent. That, and, we have these bike lanes like Union Street. I think the planning department, the state, they did a great job. It's not that much of an inconvenience for anybody, parking, biking, or driving, if they stay in their lane and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, wearing a helmet, being safe. It's a perfect world, right? But when you're riding against traffic on a sidewalk on a Saturday morning and you're going 30, some of these kids, I've seen them before, both on and off duty, where I'll be coming down the street up and down Cottage and I'll be passed by a kid. I'm going between 20 and 25 and getting passed by a kid. If you're underage, technically, once you're going 25, 30 miles an hour, that is technically a motorized bike or motorcycle. So you should have a driver's license, a DOT certified helmet, and be following all the rules of the road.
I have kind of a comment. I know that bicycles, let's take the motor part out of it.
Yep.
Bicycles are supposed to follow the rules of the road. Obviously, we as a society give them some leeway. You know, we don't want little kids riding it. We let them go on the sidewalk
Sure.
and break the rules per se, here and there. And I know they're not as popular anymore, but remember mopeds? They used to be like mopeds. And if I recall, I remember they have the CC, you know, like
It depends. I think it's over 50.
over 50,
I haven't
yeah.
done motor vehicle long
It's
while. but
over
50
it's over 50 cc's.
You have to get a registration
You have to
sticker,
get
not a plate. but
registration
you-
sticker.
Yep.
But if it's under 50 cc's,
Yep.
you can just kind of ride it around.
50 cc's mean miles per hour. or
Cubic centimeters.
Yeah,
It's
the
the size,
size
size of the engine.
Size of the motor. So, again, we can only act on what we have in front of us. The legislature at the state level hasn't, in my opinion, done enough because this was probably well written. I think it was, well, it said, 2022 is when they adopted these, two general laws, chapter 90, some subsections, then
You sent
under.
this to us. This,
Yeah, I printed you
Oh,
a
you
copy.
did? Oh,
I
you
shared it, I think, after it came out, like, this came out like a month after I
I don't
made
have-
chief.
I
It
don't
was
have-
July of 2025.
Alex, I see your hand raised, but unfortunately, public speak is over, so we can't call on you again. So we're gonna keep
I,
going.
I just wanted to add that the governor dropped a bill yesterday about this topic.
Yes, Alex, let us know about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so once anything,
The Ride Safe Act.
yeah. So kind of lost my train of thought, but basically I was saying is we enforce with what's enforceable. And obviously in Easthampton, we're all about education. I hope I never have to see a 12-year-old's arm bone sticking out of his skin ever again. It's bound to happen, but by keeping them safe, at 12 years old, do you need to be going 30 miles an hour on the public roads? No. But to the other gentleman that spoke, you know what? If I have a motorcycle license, I wear a helmet and I follow the rules of the road, then it makes perfect sense. They're fantastic. Like I said, I own two of them. I love it.
Do you think that the police would be able to enforce rules about e-motos? Let's call them e-motos, the ones that don't require pedaling, that can go above 20. Do you think they would be able to enforce those motos not being on bike paths specifically?
So what do you mean, like being on the street?
So, because I think what we've got going in here is that they would be prohibited from being on the bike path, but they can be in bike lanes.
Right, so if they're so the bike path is under your purview and what
Yeah.
you set for ordinance. As far as the rules of the road on a public way, as long as they're following all of the laws, basically under like being a motorcycle, so they gotta be wearing
Yeah,
an
yeah,
approved helmet, have a driver's license, then as long as they follow the laws, then
Yeah, I
A
think
registration.
it's kind of like you see so technically, right? So that's one gray area that's a registry of motor vehicles thing. If you buy a scooter, say that goes 30 miles an hour, you get the documents, the title, you register it.
when you
like
say
a-
scooter, do
or
you
like-
mean like an electric wheelchair, or do you
No,
mean
no,
like
no,
a
no, no,
scooter?
no, like a moped
Or
or
like one of
like a
those
motor-
you stand on?
those my kids have those and I hate them. I don't know why. My parents bought that's a different story. Those are dangerous too. They don't go as fast.
When you refer to
Like a
scooter,
moped.
mini
Like
moped?
like we talked about like a moped.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure because there's so many.
They're probably,
Meanings
they're
of
more
the word
electric.
scooter.
It used to be gas powered.
As far as the I'm blanking on the name. There's a specific brand that they're known. They go like up to 50 or 55 miles an hour. Those are, for lack of a better term, motorized bikes, like a motorcycle. I don't personally know the oversight at the state level if they have a mechanism to register it as a motorcycle. I don't know. I have never seen it, so I just don't know.
Yeah, I think my question is, like, can the police enforce these rules that would apply to the bike path and apply to having those motorized scooters and e-motos and whatnot?
If you create an ordinance,
Yes.
then yes, we can enforce so like, yeah, you guys create the ordinance and you would, you could set fines however you would,
Yeah.
just like you have for any city ordinance, riding on a sidewalk or snow tow, any city ordinance is all, once it's approved and I believe there's an additional, like you have to put up some signage, I think,
Yeah.
with this specifically, if you adopt bike path or shared use trails, there's a few extra steps you gotta follow. But yes, we can enforce it. And obviously, again, in Easthampton, we're all about education, making
Yeah.
people safe. You have to set a fine amount if we ever have to fine somebody for breaking any city ordinance, but we're about educating, keeping everybody safe and happy.
Do you have any more questions for Chief Alexander?
While we're on the topic, I think, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, I think one of the things that stood out to me, because there's obviously a lot of nuance here, and I think a lot of things that
Alex is in the waiting room. Oh, no, he's.
a lot of things we need to, kind of clarify and define and make sure we're not lumping too much together here. But in terms of what the mayor's office proposed, one thing that stood out to me is this helmet non-compliance that we've kind of touched on here. This idea that anything that is a motorized scooter or motorcycle requires a helmet regardless of age, and that there's a proliferation, at least of anecdotal evidence of this happening in Easthampton, specifically with minors. And so I guess while we have you and your attention here, I guess what I'm interested in is hearing your thoughts on how to better curb that, because that seems like if a helmet's not going to protect against somebody's bone sticking out of their arm, but it's a whole other level of catastrophic injury that is a lot harder to heal than your broken bone is. And so regardless of ordinance, like that seems like something that we need to be addressing to some degree.
Yep.
Like if there's going to be kids on these
So-
things, then what can we do to change that?
So a few things. So one, under 17 on an e-bike, they have to wear a helmet. It's already that's, So
Right. These are this
that's
state law. Right.
enforceable. One thing, so probably gonna be our last, or it's just gonna be like me and my deputy chief at the next one if we're available, but we have another walk and bike to school. And it's usually a fairly decent turnout and it's a good way to educate, but all those kids show up with helmets and all the right gear. One thing we do have, and I think we still have them, but I personally wrote a grant a few years ago. When there was money for pedestrian bike safety where you could buy equipment, and we got like 40 helmets. I believe we still have them. So if anybody was looking for one, we could provide that. I would just have to confirm how many we have. When this all came out from the mayor's office, one of Officer Gove, our current traffic officers, on his list is making it a point to hang out like at dismissal and arrival time. Now that ever since the snowbanks melted, and just if kids are wheeling around the rotary going in, just stopping and having a chat with them. And one, it's the law, but two, you don't want to end up whacking your head on pavement. And then three, my lieutenant was working on putting together a different advisory. It somewhat fell through the cracks. It's still like being developed, but our play's been crazy over the last few weeks with all the budget talk. But that really reaches out to parents. And if there was a way, and I think the mayor is planning on putting something out on his page, hopefully sharing to the schools share it to parents. Like, I'm a parent of an 11 and 9-year-old, and it was instilled to them at a young age, and they know, even if they want to just move their scooter from the garage and ride it out, both girls will strap that helmet on before they go, even if they're just moving it. I would urge parents to just have the hard conversations about what can happen. And it's scary because when I was with my kids, they were probably, they got their stand-up electric scooters, I think last year. So 10 and 8, and trying to explain what a traumatic brain injury looks like to an 8-year-old is like, you got to be delicate, but that kid puts her helmet on just to move it out of the garage. And it's, life can change in an instant from a mistake that's not even made by you. So I'd urge parents and guardians to just stress on it and figure out a way to get a helmet. Like I said, I can double check and provide you guys with how many helmets. Let me confirm that we have them still, how many we have left. And, we just want our kids safe.
So you say like put out a PSA, like if you don't have a helmet, contact Easthampton.
I'll confirm and I'll email Chair Newton and I will, I'll dig out how many we have and yeah. Or we can even donate them if parents would rather get them from the school. Maybe the school was willing to take them and hand them out to kids if they don't want to come to the police department.
Send them with your officers who are standing at the Rotary catching those kids.
You could do that too. That's not a bad idea. I just remembered that. I'm pretty sure we still have. The problem is, so they did that grant program, then we haven't gotten the grant money in the last couple of years for that specific thing, and they sit through the winter, and it's just. But I'm pretty sure we still have them in our garage.
Yeah, so doing some more outreach sounds like a good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think. Do you want?
I have one more question that's not related to this or finance.
Is it related to? Is it for Chief Alexander?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
And it's sort of just somebody talking to me about their own sort of gripes, but then also as I was thinking about it, it was tied to officers essentially idling their vehicles when they, have to get out for some reason, and it. I think I have some ideas as to why they probably do it, but also made me think about we have another round of the kind of child-led anti-idling campaign in Easthampton. I believe there will be more of their handmade signs popping up in the not so distant future, and so it did make me feel a little bit like, if the kids are kind of going through this effort to like raise this awareness. To then have the police essentially, doing the opposite of that, does, at the very least, add some confusion to the situation, probably for those kids. But I also felt, in the moment as I was reflecting on this, like maybe it wasn't setting the right example for them. And I wonder if that's something that you notice, if that is like kind of just normal practice. Because I imagine sometimes they might need to get in and go fast.
So there's kind of a lot of answers to that. One is that you never know. Like if they're parking at our station, like that car's off. If they're parking for any extended period of time where weather permits, that car is off. The equipment in that car is sensitive, and like if a laptop, you just turn it on at the start of your shift. There's all kinds of security of logging in now with a chip thing. And anyway, so with it running, it's highly recommended to not be in 100-degree heat while it's on. That's one reason. But all my officers are encouraged that they got to shut their cars off. It's going to be any extended amount of time. The other, and not that there's kind of two, and I don't want it to take it as like it's an excuse or because we can, because that's a terrible approach. But the state law does exempt us. But again, I strongly urge them, and most are pretty good about it. The other thing is all our cars now, ever since we went to be a green community, like we talked with the Teslas, which I will still sell for you if you want, are all hybrid vehicles. So when they're sitting, they're idle for a matter of seconds. I'd say anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds, and then kick off and go into electric mode until the electricity dies down after a few minutes, kick on and recharge. So along with trying our best to keep those cars off when we aren't using them or parked for a long time and weather permits and everything, they should be shutting the car off. But when they are left on, there are those other, like especially the going to the hybrid, and eventually we'll probably see electric, not Tesla. That'll cut that completely out.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What's the brand of your cruiser?
Ford.
Ford.
Ford makes the police Interceptor.
Crown Vic.
Is
Used to be
it
the Crown
still
Vics.
Crown
Those were the best.
Victorian?
No, they did away with them years ago.
Fusion? Or
Crown Vic.
No, they're police Interceptors. They make a sedan model, but if anybody buys them in the Northeast, then they're just not intelligent, in my opinion, because they're not the sedans aren't nearly as good in the snow as the higher all-wheel drive SUVs. And I'm not picking on any of my officers, but you got to remember, like, we're hiring 21 to 25-year-old kids to drive these very expensive cars. And if they aren't gonna, and some don't have the experience in the snow and having to have the blue lights on and your heart pumping because you're going into a high adrenaline call as fast as you can in a snowstorm, we want them as safe and as the all-wheel drive. It wouldn't make sense to get a sedan. The Crown Vics were such a fun and great cruiser, big. I felt like my grandparent driving, but in the snow, like, you learned how to drive.
so you're doing the SUVs then? Gosh.
Yeah, we've ever since they started making the Ford Interceptor SUV, which is basically on a Explorer.
It was Explorers
It's
too.
tweaked. It's tweaked. So the Explorer is a little cheaper because it's chassis and gear ratios and transmission. And it's just all a little different. A lot more safety. We learned, unfortunately, it was a new car that our officer got hit by the alleged drunk driver. It's going to court in the future here. But the airbags and the safety net was amazing. If she was in a lower quality vehicle or the Crown Vic, like, I don't know, that could have been really bad.
That was head on, right?
Yeah, kind of like corner to corner, but head on. The
Yeah.
other car rolled. It absorbed the hit really well. There were airbags. I saw airbags like at her feet. There was airbags everywhere. So it could have been a lot worse if the vehicle wasn't as safe a vehicle as it is.
So does Tesla make a police vehicle, or do you
I
just
don't wanna know.
modify it? No, I mean, but are the ones you have police vehicles, or are they just regular
So
Tesla?
they are Teslas, the model, I believe, Y. And so it's base car, but then so like the reason, like, there's no light bar on top
Yeah,
because it's a glass
yeah.
ceiling. You can see out of them. These are the only Teslas I don't get Teslas ever, just these. But yeah, there's a glass, so you can't have a light bar. So there's only the inside lights. And then, but they came out with, we weren't like the first to do this. And I think like the big electric friendly states like California, I think even, I want to say New York had some before we did. And then when this grant opportunity came up, we just had to find money to support the second one, and the drug money, it made sense at the time, but the council and the public do not have to worry about me purchasing a Tesla for my tenure as police chief here.
Anything else?
I have a question, but it's like almost into our pedestrian roadway safety items type thing.
That does happen to be on the next piece on the agenda, so we can move to that. But you have another
Well,
question.
real quick, I kind of felt like anything relevant to you should probably get brought up while you're here. I was curious if we had brought up, I heard a little bit about ride-alongs when I walked into the room, but regarding our review of the traffic rules and orders, one of the things we were encountering was, okay, here's all of these streets that are listed with these kind of specific exemptions, or, parking specific exemptions. And so we were like, well, short of going to like look at that street, there's no way to say with 100% certainty that what we're reading here is still accurate. And so I think we just talked a little bit about
It'd be fun to go on.
It would, but also.
Oh, I thought, so regarding the parking, do you mean like there's no signs up?
I'm gonna go for right along. I wanna go
There's
for.
so many in the golden order.
Oh, yeah,
I'll show you.
every street. is
Every
that-
street
oh, I
has
know.
like
Because
from
we
this
need to
point
call-
to this
Pe-
point.
People get a parking ticket and they won't realize that there was no parking and it's all right.
We wanted to go through
Yeah,
each street and investigate ourselves to make sure that this is still what it is in here, because a lot of this is from, you know, from the 1900s or whatnot. So we were hoping that we can maybe do our ride-alongs and do some of this at the same time.
so not just because you are the city councilors and if you'd like to think that you're special, then absolutely, but anyone in the public, technically, you're supposed to be over 18. We have allowed some exceptions for kids in specific programs, like we have interns from Smith Folk. But for any adult in town that wants to do a ride along, we have a form. Our Lieutenant Bollier, can get you the form. It's got to be signed and notarized because, like anything, it can get dangerous. I mean, a member of the public could have been with Abby that night, but she got hit head on. You know, but you just fill out that form, get it back to Andrew, and then just let us know like a day and time you're looking at, and we'll get you hooked up with an officer for whatever you want. 1 hour, 2 hours, all 8 hours.
Do we have to sit in the back?
No, sit right up front.
Okay,
I asked all these questions.
Yeah.
you did ask all these questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
What
want
did
you like people that have come like to different tours or like the Citizens Academy.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll let you even turn the lights and the siren on, press the buttons. Not like out in the public, but out back. Wake the firemen up.
all right,
Get a
awesome.
photo op.
Yeah, we thought maybe we could use that.
So that form may even be online. I don't know if Karen or Director Kamahar ever got it to our website, but being right here, just Lieutenant Buller can even leave them right at the front desk for you and just fill it out, return it, and then he'll coordinate everything. Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna move to roadway infrastructure and pedestrian safety now.
Yes. We spoke, at our last meeting, but the meeting prior, someone from Public Speak brought up some concerns about East Street. Like they suggested fog lines maybe on East Street. They said that people really like to fly down East Street. It's a long road.
It is.
There's very few stop signs, and they were concerned about how fast people get going on East Street. And one of the suggestions, other than fog lines, was maybe putting the little thing up there, you know, the radar thing, throwing it up there for a little while, or having a cop hang out in that area for a little while. And I know I'm so eloquent when I speak. I'm so eloquent.
If he goes on East Street,
Yeah, he lives.
I'll
on
let you
East
finish
Street.
your thought, and then I'll explain
I'll
everything.
finish my thoughts.
Yep.
And then there was like, maybe there should be a speed limit change, which I don't know. I don't know about that because people drive what, about 10 miles over the speed limit? That's like once you get over 10 miles over the speed limit.
If you get over 10 miles an hour,
That's
you're
when-
getting pulled over. You're probably
that's-
not getting a ticket, especially in town.
Yeah, you're getting pulled
But
over.
you're,
Yeah, that's like pushing the limit right there. That's the real speed limit. Wink, wink. So I'm not speaking. I drive slow. I drive this. I do. I'm like granny, but maybe 5. But those were somebody from the public's concerns that we kind of took it upon.
So, I will say, however, he's a little bit of a creature of habit, but Officer Milky, Steve Milky, he's our most senior. Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Our most senior patrolman. I won't let him retire for at least 3 or 4 more years. Hopefully, he waits till it's my time because he's fantastic. But when he's not tied up on calls, and especially I've noticed because I see him out there all the time. When I go out, I grab a coffee and I do a little loop around town. He's on East Street, but it's always like in the 428, that end of East Street, like between Badney and Clark. and sometimes he's there for an hour in the morning. Sometimes he's called off before he can get there if his day starts right away with calls. On top of that, other officers sit out there too. But I just know firsthand, like if you tomorrow morning, if Steve's on duty and you go between 7 and 8, if we don't have any other calls going that he's on, if you go down, he's probably going to be sitting there watching, and he's good to stop a couple cars almost every day. I know other officers that sit at other spots along East Street, and everything can be searched in our log. If the resident or residents want to see like how often we're out there, how many cars we stop, how many, if any tickets were written. And then as far as our light up signboard, it's out there now. It's been out, I want at least since last week. It's so if you're coming, if you're heading north or northeast, so towards Route 5, if you come off of Holyoke Street, it's about a mile up. So it's probably about a quarter mile further up the road from where I'm saying where Officer Milky sits a lot. It's right there hitting the traffic coming from Holyoke Street. And in another probably 2 weeks, we like to give at least 2 weeks, but because it's such a high traffic area, the batteries die quick. So they take it out, swap them out with full ones, at least 2 weeks of collecting data. He can
It does collect like how fast people are
just
going.
no cars. It doesn't collect
Just how fast.
every car that goes by, it registers its top speed and it breaks it into, so there's time banks. So and you can make graphs
Like people see it and they slow down, it will
Yep,
kind of.
but it captures in the top speed. Or if they speed up, or whatever, it hits that top speed. So they're good for two reasons. One, collecting data. It's great. So we can watch and be like, all right, well, between 8 and 9 a.m., like top speed I think it's your 10 or 15 minute intervals. The top speed is like in the 50s. Like this is a problem. Or we've used them before, not here, but the same individual, we pulled the data and it's like, all right, all like 4 days in a row last week went by at like 60 something on Glendale. So one of my officers, very next night, went out, camped out right by it, and sure enough, right in that time frame, and the guy worked out of town, West Hampton area, and every night out of work, just flying back home, and he didn't live in town. So he learned a lesson. So they're good for education.
I see them, I slow down. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's how fast
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because speed limit signs are every once in a while. Yeah, I'm not always looking at my odometer. I mean, you know.
Is it possible to have a permanent one, or is that not possible? I know it's cost money.
I was gonna
Not
say,
possible.
absolutely, it's the cost. But we actually we wrote a grant and we were awarded. It was a joint effort with Director Nuttleman and my team. And I thought it should be in by now, but it's gonna be placed because there's very state specific on how they were gonna give out the money. Had to be a spot where the speed limit dropped. It had to be a certain amount of houses within a certain area. And the biggest thing had to be at least a 10-mile-an-hour drop. So like coming from a 35 into a 25. Surprisingly, there's not a ton of those in town. So we thought the best spot was on West Street. We had previous issues on West Street, cleaned up a lot of them with the help of the DPW with signage, fog lines and all that. But that'll be installed the Northampton Street end, somewhere between 20 and 30, wherever that speed limit drops 10 miles an hour. It's like number 28 or 32 west. So that'll be a permanent solar powered one. But there's $4 or $5 grand and it's just not in the cards right now.
Just to confirm, the one that you're talking about on East Street right now, is it affixed to an existing signpost?
So I drove by it and so it has to be. So the ones we bought all those, and again, those are all through grant funding. We were awarded those over a series of years back. I was just a sergeant, probably 10 years ago. They have a bracket that mounts to a post like, with the holes in it, and then you affix the unit to it, screw it in, and then lock it so like you can't steal the bracket and the unit. So what happens is our goal is to get them up on an existing speed limit sign. So you see speed limit 25, you're going 35, slow it down. Unfortunately, there's a lot of streets in town that aren't marked, or the areas that we're looking to collect data from for residents isn't marked. So like, I know Director Nuttleman, I mean, just thinking off the top of my head, Bryan Avenue, they wanted one right around school started for the kids going up and down. So he went and put a post in. So if you ever see a post with no sign attached, it's probably because we forgot, like the police took it down, forgot to say, hey, director, take that post back. But yeah, he'll set those for us. So if a resident has an area that they want to see the speed sign, we will add it to our list, get it out as soon as one is available, even if we have to put a sign post in.
The reason I ask, because I think I know if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, I know exactly where it is. I think the batteries might have been dead on it for several days by now.
So, and you know, they probably are because, so the batteries, every car that goes by, you know, if you put it on a cul-de-sac and you're only getting 5 cars per hour, say, where East Street, it does like 500 cars an hour in the morning, the afternoon. And I know Officer Gove has been off the last few days because I haven't seen him. So I will personally, if I can find his key, because like I said, they're locked, I will grab those out tomorrow.
If I may, because I recognize that I took it upon myself to submit an action item regarding East Street traffic at our last meeting. When I was looking at our form, there was no obvious choice as to what we were presenting. And so I went back to look what they had done for the West Street item and found that essentially the Public Safety Committee, after meeting with several individuals from West Street, basically just wrote a letter that all of the counselors had attached their name to, and then that was the way that it was added to the committee. And so before I took any steps outside of what we had discussed, I just wanted to see if that was of interest to you folks. I could basically just draft it. Okay. And I did actually meet additionally with Tom Drought and kind of just talked around the issue further. And one of the things that I do want to just bring up about it that I thought was a really interesting point that came out of the conversation that we haven't quite captured yet here, which is, you know, there's the issue of speeding and all of the ways that creates an unsafe situation. A lot of his concerns are also as a biker in Easthampton, and as we were talking and as I was thinking about this, you know, there are so many almost connections between East Street and the bike path, and becoming more so as you know, it's easier to get to East Street kind of from downtown because of some of the work that's been done on Holyoke Street. They're doing a bunch of work down at the Oxbow where the bike path comes out there to further connect it to Northampton. And so East Street kind of becomes this junction. And so one of the things, you know, coming out of the conversation for me, I was like, and as someone who walks on East Street, you know, I don't bike much, but I'm certainly on foot there. And it is, you know, unless you're on somebody's lawn, like there is no safe way to be a pedestrian on that street, right? And so really, I think even if it's just the fog lines, like as he has said, to narrow the lane and maybe, you know, kind of subconsciously force people to go a little bit slower, but then also just to give people a place to be where they can feel like they're not in immediate danger. Because I think it's going to become increasingly important as the rail trail is expanded and connects more to the surrounding communities. And, you know, we're bringing people into the city who, you know, might be riding in from somewhere else. We want them to then also feel safe coming off of the bike path and exploring Easthampton. And certainly for at least that part of it, I don't think that would be the case. So I wanted to share that.
So if we were to talk to Director Nettleman about the fog lanes, you would support?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I noticed it just not as a police officer, just driving. I drive every day to and from work and my kids to school. I live off Hendrick Street. And if you'll notice, half of it, like, so it was kind of done in 2 phases. There's a point where the fog lines get narrowed. And like subconsciously, I find myself, or I find traffic in front of me slowing down when they feel that road is more narrow, even though like they were just driving, like their right tire would have been on or over the fog line, but now they subconsciously stay more towards the middle, so they're a little slower. And yeah, if they can, I mean, if we could afford it, I'd say put fog lines on every single street. It just makes sense, but. Yes.
And I can personally attest that some officers out there, I live very close to where they like to sit on East Street there, and it is near daily.
Luckily, Steve is like our friendliest officer too. Like, I don't think he has the heart to write a ticket, honestly, but he is out there every
Gotta
day.
get the bad
Every
This
day.
is off topic. Wasn't he the one that taught the like course in high school that we all took, like the criminal? What was it called? I don't know.
I don't remember. That would have been then Chief Sliz. Well, he wasn't even a chief then. He was a chief when I got hired in 03. He could have been. But there's two brothers. Bill Milkey's one of my
Oh.
sergeants. He's the older brother. He's a supervisor. And then Steve is our badge one, our longest tenured patrolman.
Okay, so is it okay if we move to the new business, which is the e-bike ordinance amendment, and our work on deciding whether to amend what was submitted, or to give it back without a recommendation. Personally, I think we should attempt to amend what was submitted and do the best that we can. And then once we've done the best we can with what we can work with, then decide whether to recommend that. I don't think it would be a good idea for us to just say, oh, we're not going to deal with this at all. Does that sound fair?
We're having that conversation now.
It is on new business, so we do have to discuss it at least a little bit, yes.
So, like I said, Counselor Shamrock McQuaid was in here before either of you ever had arrived. You were here, yes.
Right when he was walking out to go to his other meeting. Yep.
And he had objections to the class 1 and 2 parts of the ordinance being included, or I haven't read the whole ordinance, but the classifications 1 and 2, he didn't believe that we should be setting any ordinances around those. And he said he was open to amendments or ideas around the classification 3, which would, I believe, be the motored things, not the assist bikes, not the anything that has to do with that, but more of the like truly a motor bike. So, and he said the draft that had been sent around had a lot of issues, and I'm going to take his word for it or your word for it and stuff. I have not read the entire ordinance, I'll be honest.
So I did take the ordinance, I just sent it to each of you, and I went through with a first edit or amendment kind of thing. Do you think are you able to open that, Jonathan? The formatting is very awful.
Yeah.
It got messed up when I copied it over, and I have not fixed it yet, but we are going to fix it. But if you notice on side there, if you could see my comments and all the things that I changed, looking through it multiple times.
In the green, correct?
In green. It does seem like a lot of the issues with the ordinance can actually be rectified by explicitly calling these types of bicycles that go over a certain speed limit e-motos and defining what an e-moto is, and then changing all of the language to say e-moto instead of electric bicycle, because I think a big part of what's happening in this ordinance right now is that it really is lumping together class 1 and 2 e-bikes and these electric motorcycles. So class 1 and 2 should not really be regulated by this ordinance. they already are regulated. So we can mention them to say like, this is what class 1 and 2 is, and say like, this is where they're regulated. But I think the goal of this ordinance is to actually regulate the electric motorcycles and define them, and then, you know, give the rules for them, and then give the fines that would happen if the rules were broken. Does that,
Yeah.
do you have any comments on that?
No, thank you for doing this work.
Yes.
I would agree that I think it seems, from what I've read and from what we've heard, it seems really important that we, at the very least, make that distinction between class 1 and class 1 and 2 and class 3.
Yes.
I'm inclined to use established names. So if like class 3 is how the state is making the distinction, I'm inclined to use that as well.
So there is somewhere, and I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding it. There is somewhere where it is defined what class 3 is. The problem is that the state has not yet actually defined class 3. Class 3 is just all other electric bicycles. So it's actually on us at this point to define what that actually is. It sounds like with this new act that was put forth by the governor, that might be what they're attempting to do, is to define the class 3, but right now it's not defined. And as you know, acts take a long time to make it through. So especially since we're getting into the biking season and everything, it might be good for us to do the work of defining it within our city, and then know that we may need to, you know, amend it later. I think that the ordinance does talk about reviewing it yearly, we think, but maybe not. So that was like the ask for this.
I guess if I may, just my second kind of thought on all of this is, since the mayor, governor did just put out something new yesterday, I think it is absolutely incumbent on us to absorb that and make sure that we're accounting for it in anything that we do before we make a decision about what to recommend to council or not.
Yes, I think we should definitely look at that, and we should try to use the language that if that's what they did, because I haven't read it yet, if they did define the class 3 better, I agree that we should use that definition as
So,
our definition. So we do need to research that more.
so we're going to, this probably goes without saying, we're gonna continue this, and I mean, we're discussing that, but we're gonna continue this to our next public safety meeting where we
Yeah.
discuss it further with any new information that the state government might hand out.
Yes, but I do think that we should really read the ordinance in between now and then. Read it with the modifications of changing that from e-bikes to e-motos. When
This
referring
ordinance
to
that you just said.
that I just modified, yeah.
Okay.
See how that feels, and then, of course, if they define a class 3 as something other than an e-moto, if they use a different term, we would change all of our terms in there. But see how this feels with the idea that this is referring not to class 1 and 2 bicycles, but to just those high-powered, high-speed bicycles that go over a certain speed.
20 miles an hour without
28, I think it is.
assistance.
Yeah, without assistance, right? That are capable of going and have more than a 750 watt motor. I guess. Because I think when that gets taken out, when the class 1 and 2 gets taken out, the ordinance is really pretty reasonable, actually. It does bar those class 3s from going on the bike path, which I think is what we want. And then it also says that under 16 and a half, you cannot operate one without a license to, I guess, drive.
What's that?
I think to drive is what it means here. a license.
That's the ordinance, not the state law though.
No, this is like
The
our
ordinance,
potential
yeah, yep.
ordinance. And then the e-motor needs to be registered with the Easthampton Police Department. How does that feel to you?
I have no idea. To the best, well, so anything that would be a class 3 is technically like a motorcycle, and I don't know if there's a mechanism to register that, and it'd be through the state. Like the police department, we can't compel people to register e-bikes, class 1 or class 2.
Right.
Like,
but
and there's,
to do
I don't think, I think that's a state thing. I don't even know what mechanism or how we would
By a state thing,
do
you do
that.
that RMV.
Yeah. Because they are the ones that govern, like we enforce the laws. You know,
do people register like snowmobiles and all that kind of stuff?
so those
here?
are recreational vehicles, and they're done through the Massachusetts Environmental Police, and they're registered, and they get like boats. So boats actually get a like registration number that has to be on both sides of the boat with your yearly registration sticker.
Yeah.
Snowmobiles, I don't think it's very similar. To the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen snowmobiles. We don't
Or,
get snow anymore,
You know,
but they're,
ATVs.
yep, same thing. They have a registration process, but that's through the environmental police, I believe.
So we probably then couldn't
And it's that,
have this clause about registering, right?
yeah, because and like
Not really possible.
recreation vehicles, to the best of my knowledge, it's been a long time, but we used to like register. I used to have ATVs, and we used to have to go down to, there's just one, I think it was the registry in Springfield was the only one around that could register recreation vehicles. That may have changed, but yeah.
Okay, so that piece would probably have to come out.
So I have should one of us follow up with the registry of motor vehicles and see if they have any sort of, or maybe the governor's law is doing something, I don't know,
If they have any sort of registration
for that kind, or for like mopeds.
mopeds, let's just say.
Mopeds,
Okay.
they might have something on the books for mopeds, which you could kind of fall under. Right, correct?
Yeah, because to the best of my knowledge, it's still the same where it falls into, it doesn't need a license plate, but you get the sticker to when you register it with the year that you registered it. Yeah.
So then we would probably need to take out the clause A and clause B about application to registration and actually registering with the police department. And also C, which would be the fee for that. And then we would probably keep no one under the age of 16 and a half shall be permitted to operate an e-moto in the city of Easthampton. And an operator of an e-moto must be either one of the following: 18 years old, 18 years of age, or at least 16 and a half, and possess a valid license.
So that's also state law.
That seems reasonable, I think. Because we are concerned about the 12-year-olds on bikes.
Can you read,
Yes.
is that saying that if you are above 18, you don't need a license to operate one?
Yes.
Is either or?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's another gray area. It's because that,
Yeah.
where does it fall? Does it fall as a motorized bike
Yeah, I mean,
or like what's falling? But there's, again, I've never seen a license plate on one of those like 50-mile-an-hour
Yeah.
moto like e-bikes.
But it does
so it's a
prevent,
year and a half where they
young
have to have a license and then they don't.
I mean, it is a pivotal year and a half.
Okay.
From the time you would get a license at 16 and a half to the time you would turn 18. But then the next piece is that they can only operate on public and private roads, in parking lots, and in designated bike lanes. So they can't go on bike paths, paved trails, natural surface trails, and sidewalks. So that is the other thing that we're hoping to
I just feel that at that point, they should have to have a driver's license.
I think the problem that we're seeing is that there's no way to have them get a driver's license for these e-moto bikes. Like it doesn't exist.
So
You
they
need, like
just
an
have a
actual
regular driver's license.
regular driver's license.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Like,
Maybe
it
that's
wouldn't
what
be a
this means.
motorcycle license, but they would have to have an actual driver's license or learner's permit or whatever.
I hear that. That's interesting. It triggers some like inequity flags for me, just because
Me too.
if somebody is not, if somebody has no intention of otherwise driving a
Yeah.
vehicle,
Yeah.
then are we really going to force them to go through everything that would be associated
They
with that?
registered it at least.
They registered it at least, but I don't know.
Right. Like something, but that's almost the stick is the license, because you register it like, okay, you enforce it. Yeah, they might have to pay a fine, but the real stick is like you get a point on your license, right? Or you get your license revoked, or
It feels a little bit too like
Maybe it
state
is.
territory. So maybe I'm wondering if we need to just decide whether it's 18 or whether it's 16 and a half.
I think I prefer 18 and just call it a day.
What's the question?
Because we
18
don't
for
think
it.
that we should include a part about possessing a valid license, like we know we want to eliminate that, then in here it says you either are 18 years of age or you're at least 16 and a half and have a license. There's two options. So if we're taking away the license piece, then it becomes 18 or 16 and a half. So we can't have both. We can only have one of those options.
I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to have it being 16 and a half either. But
I guess,
I just don't like the either or. Like, you have to have a license or you don't. Like, it's almost like a punishment, like 16 and a half. Well, no, not really. Once you get to 18, yeah.
I think of it as, I actually kind of like the either or in a way. In fact, I would almost bump it up from 18 though, because like,
What do you want?
like an 18-year-old, like your brain is not fully developed. You're still in a phase of life where you're making, riskier decisions. It's just a part of the brain's development as a teenager. And so, if we're trying to like make sure that if you are still growing in that way, at least this is one way that we know that you've gone through some additional training to like
So
know
keep
the
it
rules of
as
the road.
16 and a half and a valid driver's license. Because we cannot, I don't think we can issue licenses for the e-motorcycles.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
So it would have to be a driver's license. Question.
Am I allowed to give input?
Yes.
So I agree with you, and I think just listening to you guys, how it's written, I agree with Counselor Schmidt in a sense. I think the theory behind both is like when you're 18, you're an adult, you're probably out of high school,
Yeah.
you learn, and 16 and a half, when you get your driver's license, you learn the rules of the
You
road.
have to do driver's
Like,
school.
you know that you have to stay on the right, you have to stay in a bike lane, you have to wear a helmet, you have to obey, speed limit, stop sign. Like, whereas somebody that is 16 and a half doesn't have a driver's license, and everyone's at driving school is probably like,
Yeah.
I don't know, my
So-
mom drives.
It's just
At
a
least
bike.
that would assure
Right, and
us.
yeah, it's just a bike, like, I'll be
Yeah.
fine.
That would assure us that the people who are driving the bikes, would have at least gone to driver school, like you said, unless they're 18, then they could do it without having to.
Okay.
Or I think
Okay, you convinced me.
going above 18 would be hard for us.
So
I agree. When I was 18, like, I was lucky. I had got my driver's license when I was 16 or 17. But at 18, you're like out of high school, you have
Yeah.
a job, like that you're relying on that to get
true.
to work, to maybe to college. Like,
So I think
so again, I'm not,
Maybe
I might not even be
the
allowed to talk in this way.
registration is enough at that point. If it's even possible.
driver's license for
If it's
16 and a half.
Bringing it back to an inequity issue, I appreciate that. That makes sense to me. It's not just recreation at that point. And that was another thing, actually talking about, people just using bikes in Easthampton, both on the bike path and in the, in between streets, and to our public speak individual earlier, like, these are not just recreation at this point. This is, these are people supporting their livelihood and by using these modes of transportation. So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
So it gives two options. Okay. And then there is a section that requires a helmet.
Okay.
Shall wear, which is one of the things that we want, right?
We have helmet laws in Massachusetts.
Honestly, seems like state law regardless.
Okay.
Right? You have to wear a helmet if you're on a open, like a two wheel thing.
If it's motorized,
This is motorized. Not necessarily on a bicycle.
it was in, let's see here.
You were saying though that 12-year-olds are riding around without helmets
See,
on these e-motorcycles. So is
e-bikes and the motorcycles, but yeah. So the state law, I believe, is the class 1 and 2. If you're under 17, you're required to wear a helmet. If you're 18, I think technically you don't have to if it's the 1 or the 2. You're following those rules. But once you go above that to that undesignated class 3 that I really hope the legislature figures out, that's when it kind of triggers the motorcycle-ish.
Been known to ride a bike without a helmet.
So it does say helmet required, yes. All riders, not just above the age of 17. Have to wear a helmet or below the
Not
age
for
of
a class
17.
1 or 2 though.
Not for class 1 or 2.
Yeah,
but for-
sorry.
The recommendation is that the motorized bike that exceeds class 1 or 2, like which means class 3, the recommendation is that they have to wear a helmet no matter what. And I think that's what's written here. in here.
Motorcyclists have to wear helmets, right?
Oh yeah, yep. And they gotta be like DOT certified helmets.
So it would fall in the same category.
Yeah. It says shall wear a helmet at all times. And be secured by straps. Okay, so we do want something like that. The next one is when an electric bike or e-moto, and we may just want to take that down to e-moto, is within 10 feet of a pedestrian or other cyclist, the electric bicycle shall reduce speed and pass with caution and not in excess of 5 miles per hour more than the pedestrian.
Right. That's a judgment call. Yeah, I mean,
I think my hang up on that is like, as a person riding a bike, how do you tell how fast a pedestrian is
You
going in
can't.
terms of miles
can't.
per hour, you know?
you can just
Get
2 radar guns out there.
Yeah, I'm
No, yeah,
had
we
nothing to do with
appreciate
writing, but
your-
like, I'm just thinking, it's one of those judgment calls where, if somebody's walking and if somebody appears like they're going 7 miles an hour as opposed to 17 by them,
yeah.
like, okay, that guy's going too fast. Like, I can confidently say that he is going more than 7 miles an hour. Somebody's jogging, I mean, maybe they're going, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 miles an hour. So you're gonna have to go a little faster, go around a jogger
Right.
than you are a walker. So if somebody's going like 10, we're trained to watch traffic and like estimate within a couple miles an hour, like, all right, that one's going 10 or 11. Or if they got the throttle hammered down and
You're like 20.
we watch them like whiz by somebody close and, I think the numbers is kind of just like I don't think you're gonna see the police,
Right.
be like, you were going 8 and they were definitely going under 3. So
But
you have to have a talk.
do you think that that clause is a good like guidance in general that should be in that could be in this that explains that people who are on these high powered bikes should slow down when they are passing other bikes or pedestrians? Like, does that feel like a necessary clause?
I think something has to be in there to slow down and
Slow
use
down.
caution. Yeah.
What do you think?
Do we need numbers or, because I mean, a lot of times in our,
So take out and not in excess of.
maybe, I'm just thinking of all the other times in our meetings where we've used the terminology of like reasonable,
Reasonable.
Yeah. Which apparently has a definition.
There's a lot of gray areas like.
What, can you direct me to the section that you're in?
Yes, it is G. It is under the sectioning and everything is messed up, but it's under section 1 actually.
You see it way too far down. There it is.
I think You don't want to just, you don't want to just scrub every trace of electric bicycle in here?
I think we should.
I think
I
so
just wanted,
too.
I was just not, yeah, we should definitely get trace. Yes, I agree.
Like all mentions of electric bicycle and just make it about e-motos and leave electric bicycles out of it.
Yeah. Except for defining what an electric bicycle is versus an e-motor.
That's fine. Like when you're,
Yeah, each would have to have something to cross out as well.
What'd you say?
Each would also have the electric bicycle to cross out if you were doing that.
Oh, okay.
you're enforcing a lot of it's judgment, right? Like, what crosses over the line?
So yes and no. So like speeding.
Yeah.
Like we can write for speed greater than reasonable because just because the speed limit's, 45 miles an hour, say up on like Route 10, if a car is
I
going
think we need to cross that
46 or even 45 in a snowstorm, that's not reasonable. It's dangerous. Like if if there's other factors. But the idea of our numbers are good because like if you're going 46, you're breaking the law. You're probably not going to get pulled over. You're not going to get a ticket, but you are breaking the law. Same with 47, 48, 49, 50, and all the way up.
Yeah.
So reasonableness is good, but our line of work has so much gray area and it causes us so much grief because what one officer does in one setting or incident, it gets broken down and dissected and people are like, well, I wouldn't have acted that way. Well, you weren't in the situation. And if the law was written like black and white, like
if somebody's acting aggressively,
like restraining order violations, those are the best because the law says you shall arrest. So the order says you can't contact Counselor Newton. There's my phone log. They called me, they talked to me, they texted me, you're under arrest. And then people can't be like, well, that's not right. Why would you arrest him? Well, because the law says I have to, you shall arrest.
No contact.
So I wish there was more black and white in our, sometimes it's good for it to have gray.
That's not the nature of the world.
Yeah.
I think that covers though the things that we want to ask Chief Alexander about for the bicycle ordinance, right? Does that feel comfortable to you guys?
And we could certainly, I'm sure, reach out if we
yeah.
have further questions.
Anytime.
Helmet, the passing, the age, and then the rest is all about enforcement. So we can work on this. We can stop for tonight. I think. Feel good about that, John?
Sure.
I
I just want to make sure that we're in agreement that we should not be collaborating on this document in between
Yes.
public meetings.
Yeah, that's why I didn't share it until just now.
Okay.
So, I guess I could change you guys to each viewers just to be official that we're collaborating, if that's okay.
And I think there's also like a log of
Right.
edits or
Okay,
something,
yeah,
right?
That's true.
I'm not sure if I know where it is, but
I
somewhere.
do know where it
I'm
is.
gonna-
The clock at the
I'm
top.
gonna try to just,
But mostly what I'm gonna just go do is the formatting, and then I will continue to check for things that say e-bikes, but I'm gonna fix the formatting and everything as well to see how it reads. And then I think we would have to go through it together
Mhm.
and see do we have everything
I don't
at our
think this
next
will
meeting?
be difficult.
I don't think so either, because I think that it's really, we're cutting it down to be just one specific thing.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question. Are we doing a different meeting for traffic and rules? Again,
I feel like we're gonna need to.
I think that's the way to get.
Well, remember, we want to check out the streets first. That's the next thing we need to do.
okay.
Check out the streets.
So you want to set that meeting at a later date?
I think that considering the budget situation, I don't think that we should expect to have the traffic rules done before July 1st. Does that sound fair?
I agree with you.
Jonathan has
At the-
a ton of hearings coming up.
At the earliest.
Yeah, so I think it's okay if we don't have a bonus meeting until after June.
Okay.
Because in reality, we're going to be having so many meetings
Okay.
this month and next month.
Right.
Yeah, I think the next 2 weeks I've got like 5 or 6 meetings
Yeah,
a week.
so I don't think we can schedule anything until
Finance.
July. And I know that's hard to not make progress, but I think
It's fine.
it's the best so that we can all make sure we're focused on that task.
So is our next planned public safety meeting gonna be June 2nd?
I believe it is. Jonathan, are you okay for that date?
Yeah, I think so. Let me just pull up an email real quick.
The next person we need, hopefully will be able to make it, is Director Nuttleman again, and then we can talk to him about those fog lines and whatnot.
Yes, and we still haven't really got a check-in with
Right.
Ryan, whose last name I'm blanking.
Yeah.
Griffin, right?
That is true.
Um,
So we could invite him instead of Director Nuttleman.
but do,
I was figuring we are probably going to have an extra meeting every few months to make sure we can fit Ryan in.
okay.
But now is not the time for a meeting.
Okay, our final finance committee meeting related to the budget is on June 1st.
Okay, Monday.
So not a conflict with the second.
My gosh, Jonathan. And then we have a meeting on the 3rd, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll
So
probably have one on the 17th or 24th.
something, it'll be our last one most likely for like,
Final budget
I think July
will
we have
return
all
to the
for
full council for a full vote on June 17th. Then of course the override on the override referendum, I'm trying to call it. It feels weird to call something an election when nobody's getting elected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
future of our city.
Okay, so the second is gonna be hard for you, is that what you're saying? It's
Fine.
3 nights in a row.
That's fine.
You're okay?
Yeah, it is the way it is.
Keep it the second, but then we're not gonna schedule the next one until once we get through the budget. I mean, we'll have our July meeting, which will be on July 7th. As long as everyone's in town.
Good. I'll zoom in if I have to. I'll be here.
All right, so we're setting the meeting date for June 2nd, our next meeting,
Mhm.
which is what we need to do on the agenda. And then,
To adjourn.
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Alright, what time is it? 7:51.
Great, thank you.
7:51.
Than our local cable subscribers.